Welcome to the Archotechs, a RimWorld fluid ideology series about pursuing the Archonexus. Episode 13, Untouchable. To briefly recap last episode, we enslaved slave number 2. Slave number 2 has to be zone restricted, and I'll talk about the wood as weapons in a minute. We defended ourselves against a mechanoid attack up here, successfully, and then got a mech cluster to land here that I'll have to deal with before the defoliator reaches our walls. Another thing that I have yet to do is to zone my people to not go too close to it, and I'll do that right now. We were also given a chance to supply 49 veils to the Shattered Empire for honor. So Sven has that to deliver this episode. So here is that quest, special trade. Now, when I'm traveling to the Shattered Empire to deliver the veils, I would also like to buy some tech prints and resupply. And for that reason, I'm going to switch over my research to noble apparel so that I am able to make some high bang for my buck clothing in order to supply and trade with the Shattered Empire. I'd also like to work on this border wall, and this is a very large project for Trustin to do, but this border wall is going to be crucially important in order to keep animals from eating the crops or to not be shot by mini slugger turrets as we are farming. So we'll get that border wall constructed as well as a somewhat higher priority. If I wanted to avoid the mood penalties of being around wood, I can just have them drop it. Honestly, punching is nearly as effective as a wooden club, and the slaves don't necessarily need to be armed all the time, so I can have them put that down. So the game plan is for Sven to research noble apparel, because with the royalty DLC, corsets and formal shirts and vests are some of the most bang for your buck. Without royalty, it would be probably dusters are the best thing to craft as a crafter for money. But with royalty, corsets tend to be the way I go. So we'll get Trustin to make a large batch of corsets once the research is unlocked. As soon as this cold snap's over, we'll have Slave 1 go back to sow crops into our farm, whereas Slave 2 has been prioritized on cleaning duty as our base got ridiculously dirty. There are some gazelle on the map tile, and to that end, I would really like to set up sort of a meat stockpile. So the reason for that is that potatoes don't really rot all that fast, but meat, of course, does. So we'll have a meat-only stockpile. We can ignore human and insect meat, as those are meats I don't care to keep in the freezer. And we'll prioritize that area for meat only, storing the potatoes here so that the bird meat, iguana meat, and other meats can be stored in the freezer. The 8th has now converted, which should yield us another development point up to 5. And next, we will enslave her, which should be pretty easy. She only has a will of 2.1. It is snowing in the desert on August 1st. Pretty brutal. It's definitely not a good time. So with the backup batteries, let's go ahead and unplug this top network so that if I have a feedback event, only the power charged in these 3 batteries will feed back into the grid, having the amount of sort of explosive, fiery destruction. That's really important to do. Once I'm out of simple meals, in about 17 simple meals, I will also queue up nutrient paste to be used. Oh, Slave 2 is on an alcohol binge. Well, I only have 3 beers left, so I am going to have Bunny Trustin and Sven all drink one. Yeah, binge away, my friend. Binge away. So she is binging on fine meals. And the thing is, her suppression isn't maxed. So, hey, Zleb. Wow, this is quite the fight. As we punch her, obviously she could be permanently wounded from this, but as we punch her, the suppression goes up, and the likelihood that she misbehaves goes down. So now, she's unconscious, suppressed 95%. One of the things I was wondering about, yeah, I guess you could suppress them while they're on the ground. Let's get that clean 100. Don't want to kill her, but definitely want to instill the idea that I am not to be trifled with. I will, however, I'm not even going to heal her. Sven will do it for some experience. Looks to me like, yeah, the cold snap is now over, which means that Slave 1, you should be able to start sowing crop again. Curious. Oh, it's bad seasonal temperature, even though it's 63 or 17 Celsius. I guess I have to wait. So most of these walls are getting built. About half of, almost 2/3 of the border wall. I'm probably going to run out of... No, maybe I won't even run out of sandstone. It will be pretty close. I think I will run out, actually. And Sven is just about done with the research required for the corsets. So we have 2 rear entrance exits, 2 to the east, and I think I'm actually going to change the layout here a little bit. I'm going to put 1 here and 1 here, sort of spacing them out in what I would consider a little bit more ideal, perhaps. I do intend, once I have a lot more resources, to pave up the perimeter so we can run around the perimeter of our compound a little bit more quickly, but that's going to take steel that I currently don't want to dedicate to that task. There's a lot of other things I'd prefer to do first, like get a dedicated weapon stockpile or make the clothing for the trade. Now, I do have other quests. I have 2 relic quests. One is a worshipful village, and then the other is a installation mission, and both of these are outstanding. A long time outstanding, and both of them are quests I very much would like to get done as well, once I get around to them. That's the caveat. All right, it appears to me like we are out completely of beer, so I'm gonna start planting some hops. Some of the double strands survived, which is good. I would have been sad had it all perished. And noble apparel is now researched. So with noble apparel researched, let's go back to ground penetrating scanning and queue up some noble apparel for trade. I can get rid of the veils. I don't need to make any more veils. And we'll go to corsets. Now, in order to tell what kind of money you'll yield, what you can do is do some simple napkin math. The market value of a cloth corset is 111, and you can tell how many ingredients it takes. So even just ballparking, 45 ingredients for 111 is about $2 per ingredient. You look at dusters. Dusters is 80 for 156, so the corsets are slightly better than dusters. And then corsets compared to formal shirts or compared to vests, you know, you can all do the math, but vests are 65 for 119, so not as good as a corset. And then vests are 45 for 111, so vests and corsets are the same. I usually just do corsets. It's a piece of clothing I rarely wear myself. And for these, because I'm really only after the money, I'm going to allow Trustin to make it with lower quality stuff. So blue fur, plain leather, cloth, synthread. And I'm just going to have him make a whole lot of corsets as quick as I can so that I can run a trade mission. And then once the corset's done, I would like him to drop it on the floor. I don't even want to carry it to a stockpile. We're finally starting to haul the steel into the stockpiles. I've been steel poor for quite some time. We have about 14 meals left for the slaves to eat. Yates going to be joining us very soon. Now I did clear out all those potatoes in the stockpile so that I could hunt some gazelle. So let's get hunting as well. Gazelle are a relatively safe source of food to hunt, whereas the emu and the ostriches are quite violent. Oh, and we have a war merchant coming in. So the war merchant here, I might be able to sell some more of the weapons that I don't need to them to free up my stockpile. Perhaps. I think this is a tribal war merchant, so it's not like I'm going to be able to buy weapons that I care to use, as we despise Neolithic weapons, but it's something. I will sell my Growland seed as well. I have a full series that goes through the Growland seed purposes and usages, if you want. The Keepers of the Growland Grove would be that series. I'm also going to sell the heavy SMGs of good quality, now that Trustin is sort of a master production specialist. I don't really need to hold on to the crummier ones. The veils I don't want to sell, because of course the veils are for the trade, and I don't want to make more of them. I could, however, sell the legendary veils, because I did make extra veils in order to be able to sell the legendary ones. So I can part with those. In terms of what they have to sell me, I'm going to buy their herbal medicine, as currently I only have Glitterworld medicine, which is expensive and rare, and I'd rather not rely on Glitterworld medicine for sort of the everyday coughs and sneezes. And there we go. That's about a broken even trade, maximizing our silver. And some of these gazelle are obviously eating my cloth. We put the seeds in the ground and then they immediately and rudely... Whoa, Zleb, be careful. You get blamed for friendly fire, so I drafted Zleb so that doesn't happen. Oh, here's another one that needs reminding about what they're allowed to eat. So this is... Oh, and here comes a third. This is exactly why I want a border wall. Keep my crops safe from hungry gazelle. Here comes a fourth gazelle, undoubtedly, to encroach on my crops. Ooh, that was close friendly fire. Well, I guess we're having gazelle soup for a while. Let's hope Slave 2 behaves. Slave 2 is now fully suppressed, just like Slave 1, so the rebellion interval's about maximum. Oh, and this one's alive, having eaten my Devil Strand, I suspect. I don't want to bring Trustin off of the electric tailor bench. Okay, so Yates, next time I talk to her, she'll convert. real careful not to hit these tribals, and I haven't been all that careful. I've just gotten lucky with my aim. This will yield a lot of plain leather for us to use in future corset making. I'm quite... Oh, there we go. Enslaved. So Yates, being enslaved, is going to require some assignments. So slave outfits, no drugs, the proper name, Hannibal Yates. Whoa. Okay. Slave 3. That is what you're now known as. The zoning, and then probably a shield belt as well as the full standard regalia. So let's get that going. Slave body strap, slave collar, tribal wear, because I sold those, and I'll start crafting them now. So Yates is going to be running around sort of naked for a bit. I believe all the gazelle, yeah, all the gazelle have been handled. It's perhaps possible that the emu comes. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, and there we go. All the clothing that the slave needs. Now, in terms of work priorities, he does animal handle and plant cut. So we'll get him to do that. And then I'm going to have him haul, even though he's a leg scar, meaning that he's not as fast as the other slaves, perhaps. Slave 1 is pretty slow as well, with a right foot ache. And then Slave 2 here has a prosthetic arm, so lower manipulation, I suppose. So Slave 2 would probably be the best hauler. But currently she's hurt due to her alcohol binge and food binge. So she gets to clean the base for a bit. Making these masterwork corsets, very, very good. And if we take a look at the time left on the clock for the special trade, I have 19 days, which is plenty. Slave 2 going on a psychic binge. You know what? I am very tired of Slave 2 being naughty. Someone is going to get summarily executed if you continue. Just a little warning, Slave 2. You'll become dead very soon if you continue. I would, in an ideal situation, want to donate these slaves for honor. But I am not putting up with this kind of poor behavior. I'll have none of it. So she should have catharsis. Yeah, she does have catharsis for now. It's mostly her alcohol withdrawal, and she is pretty deeply addicted, so she's in the middle of her withdrawal still. But I'll keep punching her if she requires it. So Trustin has gone through a fair portion of the stockpile I had for cloth, which is fine. I had always really intended for him to turn it into clothing. I think what I will do, though, is reserve some of it for a chance at a better poker table. I have a masterwork limestone billiards, but I would like to make sure that I have enough limestone for or a cloth, rather, for a poker table as well. A better one. Ground penetrating scanning just got researched. Let's go ahead and consider mortars. I wouldn't mind being able to make some mortar shells in case I need to shell enemies. Once I'm not so time crunched for trying to make sort of the clothing for trade, I can also have Trustin work on better weapons. Sven does not have a Masterwork Heavy SMG, and I'm pretty sure I could reliably make one. So another important thing to note is that every time that I try to trade with the Empire of the Moon, the Shattered Empire, Sven is going to need to be the one that does it until Bunny and Trustin have the rank, the appropriate rank, which they currently do not have. You need to be Knight Plus. So although I would very much like Sven to stick with the research bench and to continue researching, that's not that practical, sadly. Looking around the map here, I may send Bunny to do some additional component mining. The other slave that did component mining was donated to the Empire of the Moon, so I don't really need to micromanage her all that much like I did before. There's not another pawn that's going to have low yields from component mining. And I'm down to about 9 components, which is really not that much, so some additional components is going to help keep our colony afloat and repaired. Oh, just finish that. All right, 9 more, so we doubled the amount. Very little effort. Looks to me like I am out of simple meals, so let's go fix this. These simple meals are going to be renamed to NPM. And then we will put the slaves under nutrient paste orders only, using the bare minimum amount of resources to keep them fed. Trustin's pretty close to the end of his fabrics for corsets, and this actually might be more than the Empire of the Moon can even afford. But I will try to maximize it if I can. So this is a quest for 12 honor, and if we run the calculations here, he's currently a Praetor of 1. So he won't quite become a Baron, but he'll be pretty darn close. He'll be 13 out of 14 to become a Baron, meaning that even donating one of these slaves to the Empire of the Moon, if they come around for tribute, will yield exactly what we're looking for. A legendary corset. Nice. The benefit of legendaries are pretty high. If you take a look here, this is armor that I could hypothetically wear with Zleb or really any of them. And as you can see, some of them have, right? The cloth corsets is a middle layer. So Zleb, I'm going to forbid the legendary to be worn, but Zleb and Bunny are now wearing it, as it adds a little bit more armor. So if we take a look at the sharp, their sharp is actually not higher than Trustin and Sven's sharp, because I think their dusters are slightly higher quality. Another thing I want the slaves to do is to stone cut, so I'll turn that back on. I was wondering why they hadn't done it till now, but that was just a lack of ordering them. Okay, masterwork. Okay, we are 224 plain leather. So one of the things I could do is to move the textiles, all the textiles really, into this room here, just to make it more convenient and faster in order to craft. So Trustin doesn't have to haul or run or anything like that. Minimizing his movement, maximizing his yield. The ground penetrating scanner, because we live in such a temperate environment, can be outdoors. It probably should be somewhat protected behind a wall because it's expensive. It requires advanced components, which I will have to make from scratch with Trustin. But once we get one of these up, we might be able to find some underground, deep-drilled material, which would be most excellent for us to have, as we, if we want bionics and better weapons and the like, we are going to need the material to make them, the gold and the plasteel that goes into it. And then, depending on the types of defense that we would want for the colony, we're also going to want uranium. Uranium, of course, is very, very handy in slug turrets, the hardest hitting turrets that can be automated and aid you in your defense of your colony. So with Trustin finishing up some of the last tailoring projects, I'm going to start painting a zone where we will keep things clean and repaired. Trader in the camp. I ran out of time. Not surprising, I did not make it a priority. Okay, so if I look at the home zone, that looks about right. Slave 1 still trying to sow the Drago trees. So we'll call it the Drago Tree Grove. Devil Strand Field. Hobbs Field. It's not necessary to name them, but why not? And an emu self-tamed. One of the beautiful things about an emu self-taming is our animal sacrifice, I believe, can sacrifice an emu because they're large enough, wherever it is. So they need a size of 0.7 and, oh no, body size 0.6. I am mistaken. I had a question on the YouTube comments about why I didn't buy the goat for sacrifice over the muffalo, and it's exactly that reason. The sacrifice size reason. So Slave 3 wants scarification, and I'm going to start that. And then I think I will finish up this corset. This will be the last corset I make for now, and send Sven down to the Empire of the Moon, probably with Slave 2 and Slave 3 to help with carrying, and maybe with Zlab or Bunny as well for protection. And we will get that trade fulfillment done. So it was a spectacular scarification, which doesn't really matter in terms of development points, but for mood it will be helpful. And then if we take a look at the other rituals that I could run, they're all sort of on cooldown. I'm not going to be able to trigger any of them for a bit. Because we are pain is virtue, which means that we are not necessarily going to need to... We're not necessarily going to need to make bedrolls. One thing I might want to make is pemmican. So I'm going to hold off on going on my little road trip until I have pemmican, because our food is going to spoil en route. And I can make 3 more corsets with the current material that I have at my disposal. So let's go do that too. Sounds like we just finished off the emu. Yeah, there it is. And we have a raid. This raid is going to prepare a while. They're obviously tribal. There's 9 northwest and 11. One of the things I could do is very quickly, this is a pretty shifty way of doing it. But I like shiftiness. I might have to mix and match blocks. But try to get the border walls up to encourage the slaves to come in my base this way here in order to steer them towards the mech cluster, in order to get them to sort of do the heavy lifting and get killed by the cluster. So I'm currently out of sandstone blocks. So this is going to be a bit of a Frankenstein's monster wall where I'll have a mixed stone, eventually replacing all of it with sandstone so it looks nice. But for right now, we want it to steer the slaves, or steer the tribals rather, not the slaves. Steer the tribals towards danger, so it's more important to have it built than for it to appear nice. So Trustin, your construction is going to go higher, same with your Spunny. And we'll do our best to get a proper wall out. I'm going to micromanage Trustin. And then have the other slaves deliver material. This door doesn't really need to be built, as that's where I'm steering them. And then the other thing I should do is to set up everybody to be sort of inside soon. So some of these doors are closed, but this one isn't. So I'm going to close this door and this one with Slave 3 in order to drive the tribals. And then there's some other things I could do. I could see them queuing up to attack. So let's go ahead and wake up Zleb and Sven. And I'll zoom out here in a second. So these guys, I want to come in east. I should have built this wall first. But I might be able to lure them with Slave 3. Alright, let's draft. Now, Vertical Pulse and Marksman Command are going to be pretty useful in this scenario. So Zleb hits Marksman Command. Some of the lesser slaves are going to stand in front. Slave 3 is going to try to lure them away. Let's have our firing line and our shield belts. All right, there goes La Cucaracha, Mr. Cockroach. And then as soon as Slave 3 clears the wall, I will sort of trigger this to happen, where the mech cluster comes down on everybody. And the way to do that easily is to just wake it up by putting sleeping spots next to it. A bit exploity, but it's pretty functional. Now, it's important to note, I guess they had a centipede. It's important to note that our ideology develops fastest when we enslave others. So here we go. Kangaroo and Nyoka and Gazelle will get you downed. I'm going to want to capture Cobra. Looks like they're a pretty good miner, actually. And the first group is now fleeing. Slave 3 is getting shot by this mini slugger turret, and in fact, Zleb's a little bit too close to it too. So I'm going to have these guys drop down here and have my shield belters be in the way. Okay, looks to me like everybody is dead, except for Cobra. So, Slave 2, you're about to have a mental break. Slave 3, I want you to capture Cobra. And then... I don't think there's anyone else to fight at this juncture. So, Trustin, back to business as usual. Bunny, I don't think it's possible for you to catch any of them because they have such a good head start. So, the thing I have to do now is probably clear this mech cluster myself. So, I'm going to expand the avoid zones to not allow anyone to go anywhere close to this mech cluster as it's now active with a centipede. And we're going to want to clear this cluster out. Now, probably the best way for me to clear this cluster without risking anyone is to draw the mechanoid away so that I can isolate the mechanoid, kill it, and then kill the rest of the cluster with smoke launchers. So this is the slave allowed zoning where I'm not going to allow them even close to our northern wall anymore. And some of the walls that I temporarily built here really did help to steer the enemies where I wanted them. So some of these walls here are queued up with slate, and I did want to make it all sandstone just for aesthetic purposes, not because it's a strong stone or anything like that. And I'm sorry to wake you, but Sven, I'm going to need you to stop Cobra's massive amounts of bleeding out. That was a pretty straightforward raid. They obviously outnumbered me, but just using slight tactics, barely any at all, they were easily managed. And then this guy here, Cobra, you're probably going to want to be stripped because you have steel plate armor. And I'm going to haul that away so that you don't wear it in case you try to get, I don't know, let's call it feisty. You are going to be fed nutrient paste, and you are going to be converted. This also gives me the option of doing a conversion ritual in 11 days. I could also publicly execute for development points, but the public execution for development points is no guarantee that it will be a successful execution, and therefore... it's definitely best to convert first. I'm also... Oh, Trustin, you are wearing the plate armor. You know, I would prefer that no one wears it. Plate armor is good armor, but it really slows you down. So I think come morning... I'm going to, or when Sven wakes up, that'll be the last thing I do is send him on his merry way to deliver all this stuff, probably with Bunny in tow as a guardian. I forgot to set up a moisture pump in this spot. That's actually more important than the poker table. Get that underway. Zleb, that is a very strange look for you. Yeah, I don't think I want that on your head. So when I said it's a cue of any clothing they want, perhaps I lied. There's a lot of corpses out there. The defoliator is inching its way closer and closer to me, for sure. And yeah, there it is, a masterwork table. The old table can be sold to the next person, the next wandering trade group that would have it. Seems that Sven is now up, and I am going to send Sven, Bunny, the 3 slaves, and a whole lot of trade goods. So here's what's going to be important. I know I was in the process of researching the process of researching some pemmican, but it's such a short trip that I'm not all that worried. And I think I can also put the slaves on fine meals this one time. Eventually I'll get pemmican for them for the future. But let's take the corsets and the veils, making sure that we have the veils, because otherwise the trip was pointless. And we're not near our carry max, so I can add some additional stuff. I might bring the silver with me, and let's sell really all the clothing I have. I'm not going to bring the weapons, because some of those weapons are probably close to the mechs, and I can't obtain them. And the scraps of blue fur and bird skin. No, I'll keep the bird skin. The one synth thread I can sell. All right. On our way. Oh, slave 3. There. I don't see anything obvious that we've left behind, other than Trustin looking like a babushka. Easy fix. Oh, it's Devil Strand. That's why you guys keep putting it on. Let's load it into the caravan. So it looks like we didn't walk through the mech cluster, which is really good, on our way out. And they're headed to trade. So for me to clear the rest of this mech cluster, it's going to be a little annoying. Oh, I am without a warden. I guess trust and do your best. It's going to be a little annoying because there is the centipede sort of guarding it, which can't be smoked out. You'd have to EMP. And I don't have a lot of people to be able to fire smoke and EMP at the same time. So I think the answer is to wait until we have better gear, or maybe to lure it with smoke and sniper rifles. It's probably the route to go. So if we're doing the smoke and sniper rifle route, getting precision rifling once Sven's back home is going to be likely the method of destruction. Trustin's allowed to travel a little bit around here. I'm trying to keep him away from the mech cluster, of course. And then these guys are resting. Taking a look at their needs. They're all met. They have 4 meals left. And heading down to Roslisfrum with all of those veils. Pteropods. Sammy, awoken decider of West Hinia, is making a request. So they want to send us a pteropod with proximity activators, countdown activators, a smoke spewer, a high shield, which protects against mortars, charge turret, inferno turret, 4 capsules, so no printers, a finite number of 4 mechs, and they will give me 5 mercenary snipers under my control, but they can die without consequence. And this is almost certainly a quest I will accept. Oh, I am being hustled. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be hustled. So here, my trade caravan was heading to town to try to trade, and some idiots decided I'm not going to salvo them. Idiots decided to hustle me. That's not going to be good for you, buddies. Perhaps I'll even take you prisoner. Oh yeah, definitely take some prisoners. And Caravan Battle 1. I haven't even been hit yet. Bunny's very happy about the blood sport. Looks like there's 2 of you. Jealous, gourmand, pretty, and chemical interest, very neurotic. Oh, not the A-team there. But yeah, I don't mind if I do. And I'll take your food too. So good hustle. I'm glad you came to shake me down. because it was bad for you and good for me. So we're going to visit and fulfill the trade requirements. And then our caravan's going to be a little bit slower because these two prisoners are unconscious and have to be carried. But here we go. Fulfill trade offer. Done. And the honor is going to go to Sven. And as you can see, I can only pick the people on this caravan, but Sven will take it. Trade. Let's say I did bring this stuff to sell. And then once I queue up all the things I wanted to sell, obviously they don't have enough silver to front me that whole cost. I'll want to pick things I want to buy. So, an Insanity Lance. Wow, that is almost breaking even. And jump pack blueprints. And that is it. Now, I could also gift the slaves over to them, but I would rather have a tribute collector come and collect these two new additions to my group for honor. And that is all the time I have. Thank you for watching episode 13 of the Archotechs, Untouchable. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to chat about RimWorld or the Archotechs in real time, Rhadamant.com and the description of this video have a link to Discord. Thank you so very much for watching, and thank you to my Patreon patrons and Twitch subscribers for supporting the channel. Farewell, everybody.